Hi everyone. The purpose of this video is to help you try to make some sense of your market intelligence reports. You gather a lot of data, a lot of information, and you're going to be relying on that somewhat as you put together your business environment analysis report, otherwise known as your BEAR report. What would be really helpful for you would be to have a copy of your market intelligence report for your country in front of you so you can follow along as I go. And I'm going to explain all the different sections and what they mean and why you want to have that information and use it for the BEAR report. The reason I didn't do this before you prepared the market intelligence report is that I didn't want you to get bogged down in all of the details at that point in time. Now that you've put it together, looking through this information again will allow you to take a step back and understand why you gathered some of the information that you did. So first things first, why don't you look down at the basic information. Of course, the official name of your country is important to know how it's referred to in an official capacity. The demographics section will be important for a couple of different reasons. We want to know what the population is of a country because we want to know how large or small the population is and whether or not the population will be able to sustain a market or the product that we're trying to give. We also want to know what the breakdown of the population is because that will tell us different things about different makeups of the population. For example, age. How many of the population is between what specific age? Is that age or the numbers in that specific age going to be compatible with what we need for our product? Also important to note at this point in time is that I have posted a product information sheet in Blackboard that describes the product that we're going to be using. It's a fictitious product, but it also is going to describe some of the demographics for the product. Going back to demographics, one of the things that many students often get confused with is the population growth rate. So that's basically the second statement that says the population of my particular country is growing at a rate of blank percent. Many of you will see a negative population growth rate, and many of you might see a positive population growth rate. Positive and negative population growth rate does not necessarily mean a good or a bad thing. The thing about the population growth rate you have to take into consideration is the already existing size of the country. So for example, China is a huge country in terms of population. They have 1.4 billion people. A positive growth rate in China is not necessarily a good thing because they already have issues with population. A negative population growth rate for China would actually be a good thing because it would mean that the growth is slowing down. That being said, if we're looking at a country like Japan, you might see a negative population growth rate. That's not a good thing. And the reason why it's not a good thing is because in the case of Japan, it means that a large number of the population is leaving. So the reason why we see a decline in population growth is for a couple of things. It might be that there are less people being born. It might be that there are more people dying. Or it might mean that there are people leaving the country. And if there are people leaving the country, that means that they may have valuable resources now leaving the country. So they may have resources that could be contributing to the economy no longer staying to help them out. If you get stuck on the population growth rate, please let me know and I can help you through that, okay? You also want to look at the urban-rural composition of the population. How much of the population are living in an urban area and how much are living in a rural area? That would be important depending on the product it is that you're trying to sell. If you're trying to sell a product that you want to be in a city area, you'd want to know that a majority of the population is in that city. The reason why language is important is because we want to know how we would be communicating with the people of that country. How many different languages do we need to think about trying to use to communicate with them? Are there a lot of dialects? Is there going to be some confusion in trying to communicate? Things like that. As we look down through, we also want to look at educational attainment. What's the highest level of education people from this country are getting? If it's a product that requires on some level of education, you're going to want to know what that attainment is. Okay, so those are important things for that part of the project. Looking at the government section of the Market Intelligence Report, we want to know a couple of important things about this country. First of all, knowing when the country gained its independence is important to know because there are some countries that are part of the former Soviet Union or were once communist. That will be important for us to understand because that represents a different kind of a market, okay? We want to know the current heads of state for a couple of different reasons. Are we dealing with a prime minister and a president? Are we dealing with a monarchy? Or are we dealing with a country that's Islamic state or a religious state? Okay, a couple of reasons there. The geography of the country is important to us because we want to know, first of all, how large the country is geographically. We want to know how many people are within specific areas. That's the population density. The population density will describe to us how many people are living within a specific area. Are they close together? Are they packed in like they are in New York City? Or are they really spread out geographically like they would be in the Lakes region of New Hampshire? Okay. We also want to know who they share their borders with. That's going to be important for us for a couple of reasons. If we're dealing with a country like Turkey, who borders or is right near Syria, we need to know what kind of political issues that we might be facing. But we also want to know how easy or difficult it might be to get our product into that country. Are they landlocked? Are there other ways that we can get there? Do we have to ship by plane? Do we have to ship by boat? Do we have to ship by train? Okay, those are all different reasons why we need to know that information. The largest cities will be important to us because we want to know where the population lies. And for the purposes of this project, we may want to consider bringing our product just to some of the specific cities in this country. Okay? As we look down on economics, we want to look at things like gross domestic product. We want to look at the size of the GDP because that's an indication as to the size of the economy and how well the economy is doing. What will be particularly helpful for you here will be to compare the GDP of your country to the GDP of other countries that your classmates are doing. That will give you a benchmark as to where your country is. Just alone, you can't really tell just by looking at the GDP what that means. What might also be helpful would be for you to look at the GDP for previous years to see if it's gone down or if it's gone up. And that will be the exact same thing as looking at the growth of the GDP. Is it growing at a rate of or is it declining? Okay. As we look through, unemployment will be important to us. Unemployment is important to us because we want to know, first of all, how much of a workforce we have access to. But second of all, if unemployment is high, that means that most people will not be spending a lot of money on products such as ours because they may not have the extra spending money to do so with. Okay, that will be important for that reason. Physical infrastructure is important to us for a couple of different reasons. Again, we want to know how easy it is going to be to transport our product within this country. Do they have a sophisticated physical infrastructure? And by physical infrastructure, we're talking about roads, highways, airports, ports, waterways, railroads, things like that. How easy or difficult will it be for us to move our product, and how easy access will we have to our market? When looking at communications infrastructure, we want to know, first of all, that we're dealing with a free press. That will help us in terms of advertising, but we also want to know the sophistication level of technology and communication of our market. Our product is a pulse-generated battery charger, so we already know that our market should be somewhat savvy and sophisticated when it comes to communication and technology. This means that we want to look at how many of the population actually own computers, actually own or use mobile phones, and have access to that kind of technology. Those are just some of the pieces of information that will be important for you in looking at your market intelligence report and understanding your market intelligence report. Any questions at all, I want you to contact me by email. We can set up a phone conference. We can meet. I also encourage you to look at the sample market intelligence report that I have posted in Blackboard. And I want you to do that before you actually start your bear report. I also want you to look at the sample bear report before you start your own bear report. Lastly, I will be posting a video about how to put together your bear report. Hopefully you find this information helpful, and if not, as I said, contact me. I'm here to help you.